Very glad you're here. Sorry we're starting a little bit late. So today you'll hear from several financial wellness organizations and programs about how we can work with the people you serve on their path to financial well-being and how they can access those services. So we hope this gives you more tools in your referral tool belt to get the outcomes you're looking for the people you work with. Now, normally in the past, this webinar would happen in January. It would be called Taxes 101, and surprise, surprise, would focus mainly on tax issues. With the chaos and impact the pandemic has had on people's lives, particularly many people's financial lives, and with more people needing financial services these days, we decided we needed to increase the visibility of some of the help and support that's out there. And so we're holding this financial wellness webinar now before the tax season starts, as well as holding the traditional taxes webinars in January. So basically, we're holding 3 webinars instead of 1. Now, before we dive into the various organizations and programs, I will say we will send these slides out afterwards, along with an accompanying resource guide, which one of my colleagues will talk more about later. Long story short, you don't have to feverishly take notes or memorize anything today, unless that's your thing and you want to. Also, before anything else, my colleague, Mary Jo, is going to kick us off with a quick icebreaker poll, and I know how much everyone loves icebreakers.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, David. And this is a really quick icebreaker. So I'm going to launch the poll. You should be seeing something pop up on your screen right now, and if you could answer this. And while you're answering this, I will just say that we have been doing the Taxes 101 for many years. In fact, I don't even know the exact number of years, but I do know that it's probably been 15 plus years that we've been doing this. And we know that many of you have joined us over those years. So thank you for coming back to this kind of trusted conversation where we can find different answers to the resources, to the questions that your clients have, to the questions that you have, and those critical updates that everyone needs during a new tax season. And so we are seeing some numbers come up, and this is great. There's about 20 of you that answered. There's 6 left that have not answered, but I will give you a few more minutes, but a little sneak preview is that we have many new people joining us today. So this is wonderful.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to end the poll. I will share the results so everybody can kind of see where we're at. So we have 5 people that are what we might call a lifetime Taxes 101 member. And then we have new folks. So this is wonderful. So thank you. And just to note, and David, you might say this, but since I started this, if you have questions on anything around Taxes 101 or questions along the way, please put them in the chat and we will monitor that and get those answers to you. If not during the webinar, after the webinar. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mary Jo. All right, so who's talking at you today? Where are they from? Well, you got me, David Langley, Outreach Coordinator at Prepare and Prosper. Shauna Faith Thompson, Financial Counseling Program Director at LSS Financial. Mary Jo Katras, Program Lead at the U of M's Family Resiliency Program. Got Sarah Nelson Hallmeyer, Executive Director of Exodus Lending. And also joining us to help answer any tax legal questions if they come up is special guest Aisha Servati, Staff Attorney at Mid-Minnesota Legal Aid. Now, usually Aisha is a presenter during Taxes 101 and will be when we offer the more traditional Taxes 101 webinar in January, but today they're here for moral support. So today you'll hear about financial wellness programs from LSS Financial Counseling, Prepare and Prosper, Exodus Lending, and U of M Extension. And with that, I'm going to hand things over to Shauna.
Fabulous. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to see that so many new folks are on this call. I'm a program director here at LSS Financial Counseling. I oversee our statewide financial counseling services. And I've been a part of Taxes 101 and this kind of new development of it. I've been a part of this for, gosh, I don't know, 6, 7 years that I've been involved, and I've been an attendee before that. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here and happy to be talking about what we do at LSS Financial Counseling. So what we do, for those of you that don't know, we are a nonprofit and we help people gain control of their finances. So next slide, David. And, you know, before I kind of launch into our mission, just to say that, you know, I think with all of this personal finance stuff, really the first step in resolving this is communication and having a conversation about your finances. And sometimes that isn't always easy. But I think what all of the folks who are here on the call today are a part of is kind of helping to normalize those conversations and helping us all to, you know, not feel embarrassed or ashamed to talk about our situation. So at LSS Financial Counseling, our mission is to achieve economic stability for all Minnesotans. And we believe that people can pay off their debt, that they can gain control of their finances, and that they can achieve financial wellness. Next slide. So, you know, I mentioned before in the beginning, we're the largest nonprofit provider of financial counseling and financial education in Minnesota. We serve everyone with no income limits, and all of the services that we provide are for free. Right now, because of COVID-19, we are providing all of our services virtually. So that means all of our counseling is done by phone, or if the client has a platform that they would like to use, we can also do a virtual appointment, you know, where we can see each other. So that's been good. In normal time, we have 10 locations in Minnesota. One of those is on campus with the University of Minnesota. And then we do have one counselor who is housed in Wisconsin. Because our services are free and we use a toll-free number for people to access us, we're able to provide nationwide online and phone counseling. So folks can either call in and get an appointment, and that's from, you know, nationwide, or people can put in their information online and do an appointment that way as well. We do also provide Spanish and Hmong language services for folks who have that need. So that's there too. So to get kind of into these buckets that are up on the slide, these are kind of the 8 buckets that we do our work in. So that first bucket there is credit and budget counseling, and that's basic budget creation and helping folks stick to a budget, and then also credit report review and counseling that would help you build credit. Kind of moving across there, the second one is debt management plans. This is a unique service that LSS Financial Counseling provides. It's basically an agreement for folks who have high credit card debt that you enter in with all of your creditors to get out of debt within 5 years. And the way that our partnership works is that we're able to reduce fees and interest rates to reduce the overall amount of debt that you're working with. So that is something unique that we offer at LSS Financial Counseling as well. We do foreclosure prevention counseling. Since COVID-19 has hit, we've seen a drop in the need for this counseling, which seems strange, but we haven't been doing a lot of it, and but it is something that we do. So working with folks to prevent the fact that you may be going into foreclosure. We do student loan repayment counseling. So one thing that's really great about our student loan counseling is that we're able to help folks look at the whole picture of their student loan situation versus, you know, if you have a lot of student loans, like a lot of us do, at least I know I did, I had several of them, different lenders, different, servicers. And when you call that servicer, you can only get help with that one product that they're offering you. At LSS Financial Counseling, we're able to look at the whole picture and help you develop a payment plan that works for you across all of the different types. And so that would be, it could be government, it could be private student loans, it could be all of the different types. Financial education. So we do provide financial education out in the community. Many of you who are on this call, I'm assuming you're familiar with the 4 cornerstones of financial literacy. And that was a curriculum that was developed by LSS way back in the day. We're still providing relevant financial education out in the community. So that could be with a community partner or frontline staff. It could be at an employer for folks' employees. So that is something we do as well. We do financial wellness planning for organizations. And what that looks like is our program called Financial Choice. And that's where we partner with employers to provide financial counseling and education to their employees as a part of their employee benefit package. And so that's a really great way for us to get that work out. We've got some pretty big partners with that. University of Minnesota is a partner in that. Large counties, Hennepin County. We partner with a lot of credit unions and a lot of other types of employers to provide those services to their employees too. We do reverse mortgage counseling. So for seniors who are looking to get equity out of their home, we can do that counseling. And then finally, we do home buyer counseling. And so that's first-time home buyer or anyone who's looking to purchase a home. We can help you get ready and take all the steps you need to do to be ready to purchase a home. So next slide, David. Thank you. So yeah, so we're all in this. We use this kind of continuum a lot in the work to explain kind of what we're trying to do at LSS Financial Counseling. And this isn't a straight line, right? We kind of ebb and flow in these different parts of this, this kind of continuum as life events happen. So when we're in survival mode, we're focusing on the basic needs of life, right? So we're looking at employment and shelter, housing, transportation, childcare, all of those things down in survival mode. When we're in the struggling part of this continuum, we might have some income, but we're living paycheck to paycheck. We're kind of right on the edge of survival. Maybe there's some subprime credit in the mix that's being used. There might be some overwhelming amount of debt. You're just not quite making progress financially the way that you'd like to. And the goal of LSS Financial Counseling is to really move people into this stable piece. And that's where we try to get people to end up and where we do the bulk of our work. In this piece, folks have reduced stress, they've built some savings, they've reduced debt, they might have a great credit score. Maybe you're getting started on working on some goals such as home ownership, or maybe you're starting a business or looking at saving for retirement. And then there's the top of this continuum, which is the wealth surplus. And that's kind of the top 2% of the income bracket. And that's more where a financial planning institution would come in and help folks. So, when we look at this, most of us are in that first kind of 75%. So that's kind of who we're serving. Next slide, David. So how do we help? So we support individuals and families to build their personal power, their networks, their financial empowerment, while also addressing systemic barriers that continue to perpetuate inequalities. Next slide. So why LSS, why financial counseling? We're a trusted research-based service in the community. We're very innovative and we adapt to the changing needs of the community as we kind of move through this. Perfect example, I know everybody's kind of doing a lot of pivoting just with COVID-19 and how we're reaching communities. And we've, continue to serve folks, very similarly to how we were before COVID-19. And so, so that's one thing. We're well known for our expertise and the breadth of service that we provide. We're working on complex issues with folks and families. People have multiple challenges. It could be housing or credit card debt. It could be student loans. And we're well known for addressing all of those different pieces. Thirdly, all of the counselors that we have are certified through the National Foundation for Credit Counseling and also through Housing and Urban Development. And so that would be our housing counselors. So all of our counselors, they get a big bucket of training in the beginning to get their certification. And then there's requirements each year to keep that, that certification up. So we have some accreditation behind the work that we're providing. I mentioned before the 4 cornerstones of financial literacy. So, we're looked at as a thought leader and curriculum developer in the financial capability space. Our educators are also certified financial counselors. So, they can kind of take that one-on-one work into the classroom and same back, take that classroom education and bring that to a one-on-one level, which I think is really great. And then our capacity, we have LSS is a huge organization. Financial counseling is one piece within that, but our organization is financially very stable and we're able to kind of go to scale in any kind of way that we would like to. Next slide. And I think you have to click through these. Are they all showing? Oh, you can just put them all up, David. Yeah, and there's one more box. Yeah, cool. So just a little bit about our 2019 impact. I'm not going to go through all of these. I'll just do high level because I know we started a little bit late and I want to give everybody else the time that they have too. So, last year we counseled over 5,300 individuals and families. $17 million over that was returned to creditor grantors through our debt management plans, which is super amazing. And you can kind of read the rest of these. We've got clients that are feeling more empowered as a result of the counseling they're receiving with us. They're more able to pay down debt. We've got home buyers who, didn't lose their homes as a result of working with us. So a lot of numbers and statistics here, but just to show you a little bit of the impact that we have. Next slide, David. So how to contact us. So we don't offer appointments in person right now. Whoops. Like I mentioned before, we're just providing phone counseling and online counseling at this time. So if you want to make a phone appointment or if you have a client who wants to make a phone appointment, they can call our toll-free number there and talk to our scheduling team and they'll get you on our schedule. We can also do counseling online and there's the link there. Slide. And if you have any questions, here's my contact information. I know that we'll be sharing the slides, so you guys you'll have that, but that's my email address and my phone number. And then our toll-free number once again, and then our website where you can go to get those appointments scheduled. So, and I forget who's next.
That's me.
David, okay. Thanks.
All right, Shauna, thanks. All right. Prepare and prosper. I'll go out on a limb and say many of you have probably heard of us, maybe you haven't. With that said, many people and organizations are mostly familiar with our free tax work, which I'll touch on briefly at the end of my slides, and are less familiar with our other financial well-being programs and services. And like Shauna was saying, LSS Financial At Prepare and Prosper, we have gone completely virtual or remote as well during these COVID-19 times. So essentially nothing is being offered in service right now, I mean, in person. For those of you who have never heard of us, Prepare and Prosper started in 1971 by a group of tax professionals who believed that access to quality tax assistance and financial services should not depend solely on your ability to pay for those services, right? So that's how we started. Fast forward to 2020, we've expanded to run and promote programs and policies that foster financial wellness in 3 ways. So free tax preparation and financial services and products. Free tax preparation is still a big part of what we do. We offer a free financial coaching program called Money Mentors, which is different than our partners, LSS Financial Counseling. They do financial counseling, we do financial coaching, which is a little bit different. And then we have our Fair Financial Solution, which is a suite of banking products designed to be accessible, low fee, and allow people to retain wealth and build credit rather than have it stripped away, right? Just to put a little bit of context, what we did last year, as of this past July, we had about 600 volunteers help prepare over 12,000 tax returns. We worked with around 908 people to save 1.4 million. And we usually have around 150 people on a yearly basis in our financial coaching program. So beyond our free tax prep, what are our financial wellness programs? First up, our financial coaching program, Money Mentors. It's an individualized process with peer support that helps people take action to reach financial goals. So a financial goal could be, anything you want to work toward with your money. Examples of that could be maybe you want to make a budget. Maybe you want to build up credit, save up to buy a house, a car, or even just save up for, your child's college education fund. So if the people you work with want one-on-one support to reach a goal like that, this program could be for them. Now, how does it work? Well, before the pandemic, you would come to our office for the program, but the way it works is now you have a 2-hour-long virtual remote financial coaching session once a month for 6 months. And people meet with a volunteer financial coach virtually or over the phone for 1 hour. They get to know you, learn what your values are, what you want to achieve, and then they're the cheerleader towards reaching those goals. They make sure you're well positioned for success, and they help hold participants accountable. And it's a really good way of taking your goals and putting them into action. And a good way of thinking of our financial coaches is, if you've ever seen a personal fitness trainer in a gym, they work with people to help get them in shape. Financial coaches are like personal fitness trainers, but for your finances, not your body. And the other part of those 2-hour sessions is participants attend a learning session for 1 hour with other people who are in the program. Why is that part of the program? Well, these sessions allow you to create financial community, connect with other people who are going through the program the same time you are, compare notes on what's been working for you, best practices, challenges you face toward reaching your financial goal, and get some support and celebrate your victories. And it's just a really good way of lifting each other up and keeping each other going. And we know that, based on other organizations and psychological research, this component to the program really allows everyone to hold themselves accountable and just keeps you working toward that goal. There are income guidelines you have to meet to participate in the program. You have to make $35,000 or less annually as an individual, or $65,000 or less as a family. And one thing I will say is that, if someone is in financial crisis, if someone you're working with is in financial crisis, LSS Financial Counseling is probably a better fit for them to get them out of that crisis towards working on their finances. And then once they're stabilized, that's when we come into play, when they have a little bit of extra money to put towards a financial goal. If someone's struggling to make rent or their basic expenses, Money Mentors is probably not going to be the program for them yet. And lastly, there are things our financial coaches can't do. They can't help with legal advice, investments, bankruptcy, wills. They can't negotiate with creditors about debt. Again, that's our partners, LSS. However, if you're looking for a free resource for your clients for services on the financial planning side of the financial wellness spectrum, things like retirement investments, distributions, wills, trusts, those types of things, we steward referrals for pro bono financial planning through the Financial Planning Association of Minnesota, which I'll talk about more in the next slides. All right. If anyone you're working with wants to apply for the program, they're right here. They would go to this link and it's an online application. It's really short. It's about 10 minutes. Just make sure that they're a good fit for the program. There's no deadline to apply. You can apply at any point during the year. All right, moving on to our FAIR financial solution. And this is the second big part of how we promote financial wellness. FAIR is a banking initiative we started 3 years ago, and we partner with Sunrise Banks, which is a local community bank, to administer it. So we designed the FAIR financial solution to work for people who are unbanked, the underbanked, or even the unhappily banked. And what we did is essentially we negotiated terms for a checking account, savings account, and a credit builder loan with Sunrise Banks that are low fee, accessible, and importantly, allow you to build and retain wealth while also allowing you to build a credit. So what does un or underbanked mean, and why did we create bank accounts designed for people who are un or underbanked? So being unbanked means you don't have a bank or you can't get a bank account. So you don't have access to mainstream financial systems that allow you to do things like deposit a check in a checking account, have a bank card connected to that account so you can purchase things, or allow you to open a savings account. So there are a lot of people who are unbanked and they rely on operating in cash, or they use alternative financial institutions, things like check cashing places, payday lenders, who another one of our partners, Exodus Lending, is going to talk more about later. They use money orders. What is one thing all these things have in common? They're either predatory or they have very high fees, meaning say you want to cash a check at a check cashing place, you're paying all these high fees to access your money. You can't build wealth because it's being stripped away from you every time you access it. Now, one of the ways people are shut out of being able to use banks is through banks denying them a bank account because they have a negative record on check systems. And if you're not familiar with that, it's a database used by around 85% of banks in Minnesota to track when checking accounts or savings accounts are closed because of overdrafts or negative balances. So when you apply to open a checking or savings account, there's a good chance they'll run your name through check systems to look at your history. So basically, it's like a credit report for banks. If you've had a bad banking history on your check systems report, maybe you had, an account that went to zero and then went into overdraft, and then you never paid that fee off and that account closed, boom, all of a sudden you've got a black mark on your check systems history. And the next time you go to order to open up an account, you can't. And this is how a lot of Americans get stuck using things like payday lenders and check cashing places. So all this to say, when we created these accounts, we made it so that people can't be turned away from getting an account with us if they have a negative history with check systems, with the exception of prior bank fraud. So essentially, this is a product people can use to establish a banking relationship if they can't normally get a bank account, so they don't have to rely on those alternative predatory institutions. So we also designed this product to be something that works for people who have traditional bank accounts but have to pay all types of fees to use it, or have to make this many transactions a month, or getting charged $10, $15, $20 a month, or their accounts have overdraft fees, and overdraft fees are essentially kind of a payday loan in themselves. So we're really pushing back on things that strip wealth away from people when accessing their money, whether that's alternative predatory financial systems or bank accounts that have high fees. Now, these are the accounts. So FAIR, like I said, is a checking, savings, and credit builder loan. The checking account has no overdraft fees, no minimum monthly balance except for a $3 monthly maintenance fee, and only requires a $25 deposit to get started. And again, you can get an account with us even if you have a check systems record. Savings account has no minimum monthly balance and only requires $25 to get started. Again, we want this to be easily accessible. We offer a credit builder loan that helps customers build positive credit while building savings. And the way that works is we loan people $500, which gets locked into an interest-bearing CD, and you don't touch that money, right? So you make payments of $31 on that loan every month. And because you're making those payments on time every month, that gets reported to the credit bureaus and your credit score goes up. So once people finish off paying the loan, they get the $500 back, a little bit of interest, and the credit bump. So if you have clients who have no credit history or trying to rebuild their credit history, this could be a product for them. One thing to note is that you are paying interest on this. So you're actually paying around $560 total. So it ends up being that you're paying $60 to boost your credit. Now, the cool thing about these products is that you can do them a la carte. Some people just come to us for the credit builder. They've got a checking account or a savings account, but they don't have access to a credit builder. Some people do all three, two, or just one. These accounts are designed to be completely mobile. So we're using Sunrise Bank's infrastructure. People are doing this on their phone, their tablet, their computer. People get a debt card so they can take money out from ATMs. They can make point of sale transactions. They can get money out from Sunrise ATMs for free. Also, they get money back for free at point of sale transactions. So I guess I'll just say, if you have any clients who have been turned away from other banks or have a bank account but are paying all kinds of high fees, FAIR can be something they can use to build and save wealth, as well as getting into the mainstream financial system. So they can do things like build credit, to buy a house, or, basically all the things that we need a mainstream bank for, right? This chart is some triaging of who FAIR might be a fit for. And we know this product isn't for everyone, and we can't be at, everything for everyone. So, looking at this, FAIR could be a fit for someone who has an imperfect banking history and gets turned away from other banks, has an account but is paying high and unpredictable fees like overdraft. They're comfortable banking online. They have a smartphone with a data plan or secure internet access. And they don't want to rely primarily on cash. And it may not be a fit for someone who has a history of actual bank fraud, doesn't have good digital literacy, doesn't have internet access, likes doing their banking in person, and prefers operating in cash, right? So just some things to consider there. All right. A quote that really encapsulates FAIR. So someone told us that the fact that I had been unbanked for years, it was an opportunity to work to be banked and not have to go to check cashing and other places like that. So if you do, if you do have clients who you think may be a fit for this, they can sign up for a virtual enrollment appointment right here. It's about an hour-long session. We talk about the accounts, make sure they're a good fit, and how they work and how we can support them in reaching their goals. And the last thing I'll say to you all about FAIR and Money Mentors is we partner with organizations to provide training and systems and materials so they are able to enroll the people they serve into FAIR and Money Mentors from their organizations. So essentially, it's a train the trainer type thing. So an example of this is there are organizations like Build Wealth Minnesota or Emerge, whose staff are trained to enroll clients into FAIR right on site instead of making a handoff to us. And it's just a really good way of speeding up a process and getting the outcome you want for your. If this is something you think you might be interested in, please go ahead and reach out to me afterwards. And here is a our referral stewardship for pro bono financial planning, which I was talking about in the Money Mentor slide. So people can go to the Financial Planning Association to get free financial planning services. And here's a little bit how it works. There's eligibility requirements. So some of the requirements are that they have to come through a Prepare and Prosper referral, and it's clients with little or no assets, income or below 80% of local median incomes. Applications are done over phone or by Zoom. People can complete this Prepare and Prosper referral form. And some of the things a certified financial planner can work with people are on retirement savings, retirement distribution planning, evaluating life insurance policies, managing inheritances, a lot of good stuff there that people can get help with for free. All right, lastly, I wouldn't be representing Prepare and Prosper right if I didn't talk about our free tax prep and financial services, which I know some of you are probably familiar with. Basically, we prepare people's taxes completely for free. We're a VITA tax site, meaning we're part of the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. It's a federal program that is administered by nonprofits like us. It's generally for people who make $55,000 or less and who need assistance in preparing their own taxes. So the way it works is, volunteers prepare people's taxes at Prepare and Prosper. They're IRS certified. They have to take around 15 to 20 hours of training and pass tests. So they're very well qualified for what they're doing. Really quickly, what we do within the tax realm is, simple or complicated. We can prepare people's property, state, and federal returns. We can amend tax returns. We can do previous year returns. If you're self-employed, we can do people's self-employed returns, whether that's a gig on the side or you're your own, you're your own organization. We have some Spanish language interpreters, and we're open year-round, so people know they can come to us with tax questions. And beyond free tax prep, which is definitely part of that financial wellness ecosystem, as people get access to vital lifeline providing tax refunds from tax credits that they wouldn't if they didn't file their taxes, we see tax time as a money moment. And what does that mean? Well, for a lot of Americans, tax time is that point in time where you get the most money at once from those tax refunds that they're going to get in any other point. So during tax time, we encourage people to take some of that refund, start saving it for a rainy day so they don't get stuck having to use, predatory short-term capital credit like payday lenders. We also have conversations with people about what their financial goals are and start planting that seed about thinking about financial wellness beyond, your refund and saving that, right? Can work with people to open up savings accounts, all kinds of good stuff. One new thing that we're doing this year is that people can sign up for the College Bound saving account that's being piloted by the city of St. Paul at our tax clinics. So there's that. Now, there are income qualifications to take advantage of our tax services. Individuals, 35,000 or less, families, 55,000 or less. And I will say that this is going to be a different year for us doing taxes. Normally, people would come to one of our 9 locations to get their taxes done. There's going to be more to come on this, but the way it's going to work with us this year is that we're going to be doing mostly virtual tax prep. Like we're sitting across from each other, virtually. A volunteer tax preparer is going to be working with a customer. Everything is going to be uploaded online. And then for people who, aren't able to access the technology or don't feel comfortable using virtual technology, we are going to be having some drop-off sites where, you can make an appointment, you can drop off your tax documents, and you make an appointment to come pick up your return. All this stuff is by is by appointment. We'll also be having some self-prep tax guide webinars. We created a self-prep tax guide on how to prepare your taxes online yourself. And we'll be having webinars explaining how to use that guide, along with giving customers access to the version of TaxSlayer that we use, which is an IRS free file version, but with far less restrictions that many other IRS free file versions have. So again, website where people can go. once appointments start opening up in mid-January, or they can call this number here. Lastly, I will say that if you do want any of our program materials to have on hand, we can get you those free of charge, whether that's digital or in print, and just reach out to me at this contact information. And next, I'm going to turn things over to Sarah from Exodus Lending.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Sarah Nelson-Palmeyer. I'm the Executive Director of Exodus Lending, and I'm really happy to be on the webinar this year. I haven't been part of these trainings in the past, so I was very happy to be invited to participate. So we can, basically our goal is to help people get out of the cycle of payday loan debt and that whole trap. So we can go to the next slide. Can someone go to the next slide? There we go. So again, our mission is to help Minnesotans escape from the cycle of debt caused by payday loans and other types of predatory lending. Payday loans are the most common, but we also see online predatory loans, installment loans, and then people go across the border to Wisconsin and get car title loans, and those are predatory as well. So what we do is we refinance those loans and we charge no interest or fees to do so. Go to the next slide. So for those of you who may not know, a payday loan is a small dollar loan. You can go to the, keep clicking on, I'm not sure why it's not clicking, but it's basically a small dollar loan, maybe $200 or $500, and they have extremely high interest rates. So they can be 900% APR, even we've seen over 1,000. But anything that's over 36% APR, we consider a predatory loan. And as you can see in Minnesota, the average is 217%. And typically the way payday loans work is they have to be paid in full on the borrower's next payday, which is, let's say, 2 weeks out. And so I have a loan out today, then I would owe on it in 2 weeks in full, and plus interest and fees. And there is no effort on the part of the payday lender to see if someone really does have the ability to repay the loan. They're just taken out. Okay. So what happens is if people can't pay their loan, then they just pay the fee. So if it's typically $15 on the 100, and if so if I borrow $300 on my next payday, I owe $345 and I can't pay that, then I roll it over. And so you see here on average in Minnesota, people roll over their loans 7 times and they end up paying just the fees in order to keep the loans. If I owed that $345 and I just pay the $45, I do that 7 times. You can see I end up spending $500 and I still haven't even started paying the principal on the loan. So it's a big problem in Minnesota. In 2018, we still don't have exact data for 2019, but in 2018, nearly 50,000 Minnesotans took out these loans, and they took out 323,000 loans just in Minnesota. And that's money that's lost. So we estimate that $9 million was spent just for fees and interest by Minnesotans in 2018. And that's money that then didn't go to groceries, didn't go to pay rent, didn't go to car payments, didn't go to get cars fixed, didn't go to childcare expenses, didn't go to anything except for the pockets of the payday lenders. So it's a huge problem here in Minnesota. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, I said that. Okay. So this is an example when one takes out a payday loan, one gets a federal truth in lending disclosure, and you can see if the annual percentage rate, and this is a lending disclosure that we have seen. It came from one of our participants. And so if the annual percentage rate is 293%, and then a fee or the finance charge on top of it on a $250 loan, you end up paying $278. Again, that's just on your next payday. You can go to the next slide. Oh, and I noticed there, I mean, this borrower ended up paying 8 times. So typically in Minnesota, it's 7, but it can be 8, or some people are come to us after years of paying just the fees and the interest on their loans. As I said earlier, we refinance other types of loans, and there are legal loopholes so that lenders can charge very high interest rates. As I said before, it can be even, we've seen 1,200% APR. If you think of a typical credit card loan, even those are maybe 18% APR. So these are just absolutely ridiculous. Again, this is an actual truth in lending disclosure that someone came to us. So they had borrowed $475, and by the time all is said and done, on this installment loan, they would have paid $4,975. So they came to us for refinancing, so they didn't end up spending all that. But that's the sort of loans we see a lot of at Exodus Lending. Okay, you can keep going. And as I said, title loans are illegal in Minnesota, but they are not illegal. They are legal in Wisconsin. And again, this is a classic loan that someone took out, a 304% APR, and they would have ended up spending $4,600 just for their $1,412 loan. You can go to the next slide. We show these because we see them all the time, and they're so predatory, and it's just an unbelievable problem. Again, the lenders don't worry about someone's ability to repay. In fact, they hope that they can't repay, because that means they will be continuing in the cycle. And you can see here, it's just the customer applies for a loan, they get the loan, they don't have money to pay it back, so they just pay the fee, and then they roll it over again and again. You can keep going to the next slide. So what we do at Exodus Lending is we pay off the loan, we take the loan over, and we go to the lender and we pay it off. And then we work with the program participant to repay the loan, but we charge no interest, no fees. So if someone walks in our door saying, oh, next week I owe Ace Cash $360, we will take the loan, we will pay Ace Cash $360, and then they'll pay us back typically $30 a month for the next 12 months. We haven't added on anything at all. So it's much, much, much more affordable. And every month they're addressing their principal. It's not starting over with the full amount every 2 weeks. So you can see, we'll put the eligibility requirements here. Our program is strictly for people in Minnesota. It's a Minnesota resident. The loan that they have, that they come to us with, it has to be under $1,500. It's older than 30 days. In other words, someone has gotten trapped by it, so they can't pay it off. They're struggling just paying the fees each time. And there's a steady source of income, although that doesn't have to be employment. That can be disability, that can be Social Security. And we see many folks who have that type of income. That's totally fine. Go to the next slide. So the way it works is, once, especially if you're working with clients, if you have a client who comes to you and says, I have a payday loan, then have them contact us. They can do that via the website or our phone. That information will be provided in the slides. But they make an appointment and intake. We do it all over the phone. It shows people shaking hands. We shake our hands virtually now. We don't even do fist bumps because we're not in the same space. But then we go and pay off the loan, as I said. The borrower makes the payments, and then after 12 months, the borrowers are considered graduates. We also have incentives, so financial incentives. So working with our partners here, if one of our program participants goes and meets with a financial coach at Prepare and Prosper, or a financial counselor at LSS, then we incentivize that. We actually provide $50 per visit, up to 3 visits. So someone could earn $150 by meeting with those counselors or coaches. And we also incentivize on-time payments. So there's a slight amount of money that goes back into one's account if they pay faithfully each month over the 12 months. Go to the next slide. I won't go into the stats. Basically, we have about 450 folks that we've helped so far, and 226 have now repaid in full, and we have current program participants too. But I know we're short on time, so we'll move along.
You mean like these? What do we have?
Yeah, and then Anna is our person to contact, and she's our program coordinator. And people can reach out to her, and she, again, will work with you and your clients remotely. Go ahead.
Great, thanks, Sarah. Next up is Mary Jo Contras.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you for all the questions in the chat. We will get to those at the end. And so some of them were sent to me privately, so I will facilitate that once we get to the question and answer. But if there's other questions that you're thinking about as you're kind of reflecting on what you heard or what I share, please just keep them coming. So again, hi, my name is Mary Jo Contras, and I'm glad to be here today. And I am program leader for our family resiliency programming in the Center for Family Development at the University of Minnesota Extension. And I just have to say, I am very honored to be part of this, continuing to be part of Taxes 101, but just thinking about all of the wonderful resources and information and programs that we just heard about from LSS, Exodus Lending, and Prepare and Prosper. It takes all of us, right? And I think that we all are seeing that it takes all of us to come together to support the families that we have, families throughout Minnesota and our communities, and to really, focus on what are the needs of those families and communities. And so there's a common theme throughout this session this morning. And so just keep that in mind. And we depend on all of you to help us to learn and understand what are those needs of the families and communities that you're serving. And so that's kind of a little introduction into the work of Extension. So within Extension, we have different centers, and the Center for Family Development is the one that I am part of. And our mission really is to help families make informed decisions leading to better health, financial security, and well-being. And our Center for Family Development is broken up into two different program areas, we call them, two different kind of content areas. One is health and nutrition, and one is family resiliency. And that's the one that within family resiliency, that's where our financial capability education and programming exists. But also under the umbrella of family resiliency, we also do many other many other types of education around different topics like parenting, partnering for school success, pathway to post-secondary. We have a partnership with military families and working with service providers around all of those topics as well. We do a lot around mental health, and again, with our financial capability, there's decision-making and resource management and later life issues as well. So that kind of just gives you a little bit of a sense of what we do within our center in our family resiliency programming. Extension as a whole, some of you may know this already, but so I'll go over this quickly. We are statewide, and we have 15 regional centers and extension offices throughout the state. So you can see this map kind of shows where we are. So we have staff, 65% of our staff is in greater Minnesota, and we live and work in the communities that we serve. And so that, having those trusted relationships within the place that we work and live is so important. And so we kind of talk about that as our place-based work, right? That we are embedded in the community, and so that we can have those strong relationships and connections. My team we have 19 different family resiliency educators across the state that work on those kind of areas that I just talked about, with one of them being financial capability. Next slide, David, please. And so who we are and or who we reach and how. And so really, we reach our audiences vary across our programs and across the state and who we work with. But the Center for Family Development, most of our audiences are low-income audiences and those that serve low-income audiences. So our community partners like yourselves that are joining our webinar today. So we talk about our work in two different ways, direct education, and that is that we are actually providing education to families, individuals and families and communities. I don't have that on here, but that is one thing, so that we're providing that directly to the consumer as a way we kind of say it. The other big part of our work, especially within financial capability, is train the trainer. So we really help service providers throughout the state build the capacity around financial capability so that they are able to better serve or increase their capacity to serve the needs of the families and communities that are part of their service area. So for instance, we have programs like our community mentorship program that we work hand in hand with community organizations, and Exodus Lending being one of those this past year, to really help to focus on maybe an area that they need additional training on, additional resources, and provide a mini grant and some support to move that work into the next stage, right? That they're into kind of being able to either develop or implement and deliver and evaluate that, that kind of new content area that is needed to better serve their families. And so one of the things that Extension is always doing, and you heard everyone else talk about this too, but that we're very nimble and that we are always listening to the needs of the community. Instead of taking a top-down approach, we really take that community engaged model approach where we're working from the community up. And so really keeping our kind of finger on the pulse of what's happening in our communities. What do our families need? And if we don't offer that, how can we connect them to other services like Exodus Lending, like LSS, and like Prepare and Prosper? And so we're also connectors, besides just offering education and training that is research informed. We also are the connectors within our communities to make sure that we are bringing people together to have conversations like the conversation we're having today. Next slide, please. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our some of the programming that we do, and I'm also, some of the examples that I will give are some of the examples we've been doing in the last 8-9 months since COVID has hit, I guess, since COVID started. And so, like everyone else talked about, we are not doing in-person education right now. We have pivoted to online education. We are doing a little bit of in community education and a few of our health and nutrition programs or as needed, but most of our staff are all working at home, keeping safe, and we are delivering much of our education and our community building via Zoom, via online, as well as virtual resources on our website and those kind of things. We just had something come out in one of our communications with Extension just yesterday, and I'm not going to get the numbers right, but we have increased our website visits just enormously in the last 8 to 9 months, as I'm sure everyone else has, because everyone is looking for those resources in a virtual way now, instead of what they were getting in person. So I'll just share a little bit here, and keeping my eye on the clock here as well. Educational programming, our foundational, can you go back just one slide, David, sorry. So really quick, some of our foundational programming really focuses on those core financial education topics. And so some of the more recent kind of webinars that we've done under COVID has been Budgeting 101, and then the next stage, Budgeting 201, and then Minding Your Credit Report and Score, because we know, as others have talked, that there's many people that have lost jobs, many people that have had a work reduction or hour reduction in their work. And so what does that look like, and how can we help to plug into those needs and provide some basic core financial education to help those families. Okay, next slide, please. And that's exactly what this slide talks about, is how we have pivoted. So you can see some of the topics that we have on some of the webinars that we've had over the last couple months, really focus on how can we help families during this COVID time, and how can we help them to get their finances, learn about different financial education tools and resources to help them get their finances in a place where they can continue to thrive, even under the most difficult circumstances. And how can we then connect them to other resources as needed, as there's loss in income. So these are some of the presentations, and one of them being COVID scams, which is really important, especially some of our work around just focusing on elder family financial exploitation, and what those kind of that family piece of the scams looks like, and what are folks to look out for, money management during a crisis, and then again, adjusting to suddenly reduced income, and then preparing your finances for disaster. We also we have a whole Latino financial literacy team that offers education in Spanish. That is really important, especially during this time of this constant information, that we offer webinars and resources in other languages, so that families can learn in the way it's easier for them to take in that sometimes complicated information that we're sharing during this difficult time. So next slide, please. The other piece of our work that I talked about is that Train the Trainer. And I talked a little bit about our community mentorship program, but we also have other Train the Trainer programs, and I'll just mention a few here. One of them is our DollarWorks 2 curriculum, and we do this is a comprehensive financial education curriculum that we provide Train the Trainer to community professionals on. And so it is an 8-hour training. It is adaptable, and we have been doing it online for various groups during COVID as versus what we do in person pre-COVID. The other one is the Financial Educator Certificate Program, which is an online 9-month program that we really help individuals build their capacity around basic financial education concepts. And so it's really kind of the impetus for that program was to help people that aren't trained in financial education or financial providing financial services to really build their confidence and their skills around financial education, so that they can continue to meet the changing needs of the families that they serve. Next slide, please. Okay, and then lastly, I think I'm getting to the end. We have what I talked a little bit about before is some end of life education around financial capability. So, or financial education. So what are those things that we need to think about? Healthcare directives, where do we think, how are all of our finances in order as we get into those later years in life, and what does that look like? Who Gets Grandma's Yellow Pie Plate is one of our signature programs that's really around decision-making, family decision-making around those important pieces that are in your family, those heirlooms and all of those things. And how do you have those discussions with your loved ones on how are you going to support your family as if somebody passes on, and what does that look like ahead of time, and having those important conversations ahead of time. I think even more important than ever is to have these conversations with COVID and with the unpredictability of the virus, and not knowing how we're going to be affected if you are exposed. And so having your financial papers in order, having that information available to somebody else, whether it's a family or a friend, so that you are that they can help to support you if you do end up with COVID and you are not able to support your way in that financial part of your life. So some of those things just to kind of point out. So next slide, David, please. Okay, so we do have a financial, these are just a couple tools that we have, a financial capability toolkit that has some things on budgeting and credit, and it's really, again, towards the Train the Trainer lens, where we are providing lesson plans and short bite-sized videos, we like to call them, around core financial topics that really help us, community partners and service providers provide financial education in a way that maybe they don't have the experience doing, but it helps to give them the tools to do that. And then the spending plan tool is our new interactive worksheet that we have to help folks, especially during this time, prioritize spending and decision making. Next slide, please. Okay, and I will put these in the chat here when we can, but we also will share these out. But these are 3 ways that you can connect to us and find out more about extension and particularly around financial capability, but some of our other programs as well. Our family news highlights some of the things that are happening across our center. Courses and events is where you can find our webinars and register for ones like this, but also other ones that I kind of touched upon. And then we have a specific page extension wide across all of our centers that are resources that have been developed or adapted under COVID-19 that focus specifically on those. So thank you so much. I know that was quick, but we wanted to make sure that we get all of these kind of resources out to you and kind of talk about everything that we do to help support families' financial well-being. And so I think the next slide is going to be, again, my slide, but I'll kind of transition now back into our taxes 101 structure and how we do this. And so David kind of talked a little bit at the beginning about how we've done taxes 101 a little differently each year based on the needs that we're seeing and then changes that we're seeing within the tax law, but also within our communities and what's happening. So we have a resource guide, and this has typically been sent out to participants as kind of a, I don't know if a cheat sheet would be a good way, but it has some resources in there that specific resources that kind of connect you to the things that you are going to need to help support your clients through the tax season. And so there's some resources in there that we have not, that we didn't take a deep dive into during this presentation, but there's some links to other partners and other resources that I think that is really helpful for what we are helping to support our families into tax season. So I'm going to be sending that out after this webinar today so that you will have that. And it has some of the links that we have talked about, like I said, on all of the with Exodus Lending and Prepare and Prosper and LSS in there as well. So if you weren't able to scratch those down really quick as we were running through these slides, they will be there too. So if there is something missing within this guide that you are like, I really wish that, I had that, please let us know and we can send that resource out or we can connect you to it. But then also more importantly, we can add that resource to the resource guide for the future. Okay, so now we're gonna open it up for questions. And I am going to look, there were some early on that I know we had when, let's see. Okay, so I know there was one question for you, David, that asked, where would we send clients to open up accounts at Sunrise Bank?
Sorry, just trying to get my computer on mute unsuccessfully for a few seconds, frantically pressing unmute. So to enroll in the FAIR accounts that we partner with Sunrise Banks for, I will go back to the slide that has that web link for us. I mean, of course, you could always send someone to Sunrise Banks for one of their regular accounts, but if you're looking for through a FAIR account, they would do that through us. Sorry about this. Just want to get back to the right slide. Okay, so there is a link right here. I hope everyone can see that in this slide. It's down at the bottom, and it's it's on our webpage, but you could go right to it from here. And what would happen is they would fill out a brief questionnaire screener, which helps kind of triage whether they're you know, a good fit for fair. We also offer a product called CFR cards, which are non-predatory prepaid cards for people who can't people who can't get a bank account even with our terms, or for whatever reason just don't want to have a bank account. Maybe they've got some garnishments and things like that that they want to avoid. They can get the CFR card as a way of, you know, having something they can direct deposit on that's fee neutral. But anyway, they would go to this website, they'd make an appointment to meet virtually with an enroller, and we take it from there.
Perfect.
Hope
Thank
that
you.
answers the question. Oh, gosh.
So the next question I see, and this might have been Sarah or others talked about some of this, but I just want to make sure that it's answered for the person that asked it. Do you know if there is a loan program for those who use payday loans to avoid using payday loans?
I am not aware of one, and we get this question a lot. Our funding is such that we haven't gone down that road. We think about doing it ourselves. But currently, no. There was a group in South Minneapolis out of a church that did it for about a month, and then they ran out of money because people do need loans. We're also trying to have conversations with credit unions and banks so that they will start providing much more affordable loans. Bank of America, for example, is just going to roll out a pilot project next year for their members to get loans, and they would charge a one-time fee of $5, and a loan could be $200, $300, $400, or $500. Would just be $5 for the fee. So very affordable, but I don't even know if Minnesota is one of the states that's going to provide that yet.
Thank you. Another question is, what are the requirements to qualify for the credit building loans? Do all collections charge off needs to be paid? What are the minimum requirements, or is it on a case-to-case basis?
So I actually responded to this question. It was about the fair credit builder loan.
Okay. And then there is a question. I'm just going through these and then we'll open it up and people can unmute if they like. There's another question I believe is for me. If there's a cost for a train the trainer program, providing train the trainer education is part of our mission and extension. And so sometimes there's fees for curriculum, but we can talk about that if you want to connect with me. And my email was on the slides, but I also put it in there. And so we definitely do things for free as well, because that's just part of our mission. So we can talk.
Mary Jo, there was a late added question. It says, is there an organization who can help people consolidate their debts? Which that would be LSS Financial, correct?
I can take the question. So debt consolidation is different than what LSS provides. We do debt management plans, which it puts, instead of the consumer, let's say you have 6 credit cards and, a high debt load. Instead of the consumer making a payment every month to each creditor, we're able to take all 6 of those, roll it into one payment, reduce the fees, reduce the interest rates, and then we make the payments direct to the creditors. So the consumer is only making one payment in a debt management plan. It's not the same as a debt consolidation. A debt consolidation would be, a debt management plan is specific for credit card debt. So Sandy, if you want to unmute yourself and maybe clarify a little bit more about what you're asking. Debt consolidation can be a tricky thing because you have varying interest rates. And then when you consolidate, you have to pick one. And then, so if you have a low one and a high one, and, you know, you really have to do the math to see if doing a debt consolidation is the right fit, if it's really going to save you money in the long run. So I hope that's helpful, Sandy, but if you have more that you want to add.
Well, if you have a client who has a lot of bad debt and low income due to a child's illness and medical needs, where they just need lower payments.
By bad debt, is it all credit card debt, or is it like things that are
not all credit card debt? There's some student loan debt. There was like a predatory educational program she bought into, and little things like that. There's nothing huge, but it's just she can't make the payments on all of them at one time.
Yeah. So that gets tricky because it's different types of debt too.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, doing a consolidation probably isn't in her best interest. You know, I mean, I'd be happy to talk with you more offline about this specific thing.
Sure, that would be great.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. You know, my contact info is in here, so.
Okay, are there other questions? I think I combed through the chat and got every question that I could see. Are there other questions that folks have? We have about five or so minutes left. If you want to unmute yourself and ask the question, you can do that, or if you're more comfortable typing it in the chat. This is always an awkward moment, right? How much time do you leave? So I think I can always talk, so I can fill this a little bit while everyone's thinking, but we will be sending out an evaluation as well along with the resource guide that I gave a little bit of insight into, slides and the recording. We would really love your feedback in the evaluation because that is how we inform our future Taxes 101 events, right? And so if there are things that are missing or topics that you would like to know more about, please put them in there in the evaluation so that we can learn about what those needs might be. So Shauna, Sarah, David, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, just thank you to, Sarah, you and Shauna and Aisha, and then thank you to everyone who joined us today.
Yeah, same. Thank you, everybody who hopped on. It's especially cool to see so many new names on the call. Normally, it's a pretty hardcore group that come to this. So, so it's nice to see some new folks and know that this information is getting spread more broadly. So thanks.
Okay, so we do have a few other questions that popped in my private sent to me only. So what other loan products does Exodus provide to financially challenged individuals?
At this point, we only refinance predatory debt. So if I was even interested in Sandra's comment, another educational debt, anything that's over 36% APR, we will refinance. But we don't provide new loans, at least not at this point. Again, we're talking about maybe adding some things in 2021, but at this point, we don't provide anything besides refinancing of predatory debt.
Thank you. Another question that just came in really quick is, and maybe Suzina, you might be able to unmute and maybe give a little more information, but timeshares, any resources for it?
Yeah, I just asked that question because I came across a client that was asking if there's any resources or support to get herself out of the timeshare. She said that she wasn't, clear with the terms, and so I haven't dived too much into it, but I was just wondering if there was any resources for timeshares. to get out of it.
You know, I could throw that out to our counselors and see if anybody's come across that and if there is a resource that anybody knows about. I know that this is it is a typical folks who get into timeshares and don't understand the terms, like that's a common situation for folks to end up in. So I'm not surprised to get the question. So I can throw it out to our counselors and see.
I would just add that we have been working with a law firm that says they're willing to help with almost any financial question. So again, if somebody had been given, signed a contract without really understanding what they were in for, and maybe it wasn't clear what they were in for, maybe this law firm would help out. So Azucena, you can contact me at sarah@exoduslending.org, and I'll see if I can connect you to the law firm. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so to answer the question about extension, I was just trying to put in here, extension doing financial counseling. We do have accredited financial counselors on our team. So we do some one-on-one financial counseling as well. Much of our work is, is more of our kind of a group education, our workshops, but more and more we are getting into doing that one-on-one counseling as well as some coaching. So if you're interested in kind of talking about that or what your needs are, I'm happy to also chat offline about that too. And if we can't help you, LSS can. So we know that.
Yeah.
We're not territorial at all. We share.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth saying that we all refer folks, within this circle of service providing. So I think,
Okay, so I think we are at the end. I think that we have answered most of the questions in the chat. So we just, David, do you want to do the ending or do you just want me to close her out?
Yeah, go ahead and close her out.
So thank you so much. And like I think Shauna said, we are thrilled to see new people be part of Taxes 101 because this is an ongoing community and of learning. And each year we all learn something different and find those resources and tools and kind of advice, right, to help our families and communities thrive. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Mary.
Yes.
Before we signed off, I did see that there was an addition to that last question asking how would one connect with the counselor at U of M?
Yeah, so thank you. Sorry, I did not see that one. You could connect with me. And so I think I shared my, email, but it's on the slide too. And you can connect with me and then I can help triage that. So look for an email from us with all that information. But if, feel free to connect with any of us individually as well. So thank you so much. And we will be sending out the registration for the next two webinars that are coming up in January, right, guys? January. Sorry, I don't know those dates in my head. And so we will be sending that out soon so that you can get signed up for those as well. So thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.